What up, world? It's your boy Big Willie, aka the Pac Mac, and oh my goodness, we had a blockbuster announcement yesterday. We finally see that we have the Commander Brackets beta. I hope y'all are all having a great day. As always, I am blessed and happy to see you. Oh my goodness, it is a good day. It is a very, very thorough day, but it's good, it's great, and we're about to find out some stuff about the future of Commander finally. They're rolling this out pretty much right before what you call it, Magic Con, Magic Fest Chicago. So this is like, I want to say it's the weekend before it's Chicago is the thing. I don't know. I'm unfortunately not going to Chicago. I'm going to try my hardest to go to Vegas or Atlanta, but we gonna see. Life be life, and so we're gonna figure this out. Biggest things. So let's go ahead and get into it. I got the article posted up here. Most of this won't change really anything for you as a commander player in general. You and your play groups. It's mainly more so for matchmaking, which I appreciate that, and I agree with that sentiment. This is it's really big for that, and I think it's a very big deal for that because there's times when you go to new stores, you go to conventions or anything, and you're trying to just get a game, and some people, like they're trying to streamline the whole power level system because for the longest, I've always said this forever, power level is very, very subjective. Some people may be playing high power cards and ends up like pilot is also a big deal on this too. But what I'm saying, like some people like power level was so broad of a spectrum and they're trying to streamline that. And I appreciate that because like some people you come up with and they're playing CDH. And if they're playing CDH, it's like, yo, like none of my decks are really CEDH ready. Even like the ones I would think are CEDH ready, I don't think are CEDH ready. It's not as streamlined as it could be. So I'm personally like, I'm a big fan of this, and most people I think this is a very good idea, specifically for outside of like my main play groups, because my main play groups we play what we play, and we are pretty much for the most part good. Um, so I do agree with like how like this is a thing. Um, I do like how he mentions how like this ain't gonna change nothing for you and your commander. Number two, it's not gonna stop flyers, unfortunately, because people are people, and some people are just gonna be jerks, and some people are not, and like that's the thing. You gotta like communication is key. Remember, like it's not just a tagline; it really is all about the gathering. So you gotta like communicate with your people. Otherwise, if you're just gonna be pub stopper, like you probably aren't gonna find that many people to play with. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a real talk for real talks. Um, Number three, it is a beta test. Like this is supposed to be a beta. They said that they are really like looking at this at the at MagicCon Chicago, and um, they're gonna be doing a lot of things and just getting a lot of just overview on that. So there's 5 brackets, which we'll get into that in just a minute. I like the way they said about all these, and I do like their new term, mass land denial, because that definitely like broadens the horizons of like what's what. You know what I'm saying? Like mass land denial, which is strictly stuff that like your cards are regularly destroy, exile, bounce other lands, keep lands tap, or change what mana is produced by 4 or more lands per player without replacing them. So, like the examples was like Armageddon, Ruination, Sunder, Winter Orb, Blood Moon, like Winter Moon, Winter Moon, I don't think is as bad, but I also think is as bad because like Winter Moon, you really you want to stop me, play Winter Moon. That's secret tech for anyone who plays me. Oh man. And they're saying that none of that should be in brackets 1 through 3, and I think that's absolutely fair. With the way they have these brackets came up. All right, so here is the bracket system. I'm gonna go ahead and stick on this for a minute. So the first one is exhibition, which like is the one bracket that Gavin was like, "Yo, we need to make this because there's a lot of people who play like super themed decks, stuff that's just fun, with little to no tutors at all. Like, yo, like I got this deck built off of like the Weatherlight, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody's probably gonna come out there with the Thrall deck out of nowhere and just be like, yo, this is just Thrall tribal. And there's no like real like game changers and stuff like that. I like that. They're gonna go into game changers in a little bit because that's the big meat of this whole thing. But I do like how they're saying with the brackets. Number 2 is core, which is the average current pre-constructed deck. They do kind of get on. They elaborate on this core because some precons are not all precons are created equal. We all know that. One thing that I think that they should do is definitely sit there. I mean, because most precons are either 2s or 3s, like just in general, except for like the secret layer ones. Secret level ones are like they can kind of somewhat go into 4, not really, because like they don't really like they don't really give it the meat that it's a 4, but they definitely get it to 3s. Like I would definitely say like most precons, um, most with the game changer lists, like specifically with that list, there is some that they've released in like secret layers and like some of like the universes beyond ones could almost be considered 3s. But 2s, no mass land denial, no chaining extra turns. I really like that they mentioned that there's no chaining extra turns in the 2. So you can play extra turns in the 2, but there's no chains in it. No 2-card infinites, which is fair, and no game changers. They also like kind of elaborated like how like Rule 0 is very, very, very integral to some of these because it's like some people play like maybe one game changer with like the list of the game changers kind of explain that because like some of these game changers are tutors. A lot of them are tutors. Let's just get that out the way. A lot of them are tutors. There's a lot of colorless ones. There's a lot of big blue ones. So let's just go ahead and get that out the way. We're gonna get there when we get there. But that's what a core. An upgraded one is like late game, 2-card infinite combos. They run 3 game changers. Tutors are okay in a 3. Um, they, no chaining extra turns and no mass landed out. Fair enough. Um, 4, there's really no restrictions other than the ban list. And 5, which is CDH, no other restrictions than a ban list. There is a difference between optimized and CDH. Like, just saying there is a real big difference. CDH is very, very like it is almost like CDH is a whole different monster. I haven't gotten into it because I play Commander to have fun, to let loose. You know what I'm saying? I'm more of a 4-through-1 type player rather than a 5 type player. And don't get me wrong, I think 5s are great. I think y'all do what y'all do. It's great. It's spectacular. It's just it's not for me yet. You know? I'd rather play I'd rather sweat in modern. I'd rather sweat in limited. I'd rather sweat in Pioneer. I'm trying to get there, trying to get there. So let's go ahead and get what they're describing about the brackets. Um, so exhibitions is more ultra casual. Winning isn't the primary goal here. It's more about showing off some stuff. you know, doing some very, very dumb things and fun things. Like, yo, like this is just more about having fun and anything. I think that should be highlighted, and that should be, like people should be okay with that, like for real, because like some people build decks just to do fun dumb things, and I think that that's really cool and should be very respected, and they should have a space. um Bracket 2, which is the core, most of the regular precons. um some of the stuff they get into later on, but like some of the precons, like they're like the Modern Horizon 3 precons, aren't considered core. um I would say the same thing for like the Warhammer ones and the Fallout ones, and in some cases even the Doctor Who ones. I wouldn't say that necessarily too much about the Lord of the Rings ones, but definitely like the bigger ones. Bracket 3 is upgraded, so like the upgraded, it's definitely a little bit more to like the point, but also you can have up to 3 game changers in there. And there was something like they were sitting there saying in the actual live stream, Blake was saying like, how some of his decks that he would consider either 3 or 4 are only playing like 1 or 2 game changers on the game changers list, and he's like, I could add more to this, like, I can really have it to be like a 3 or a 4 if I wanted to. And I'm like, like definitely it's something that I want to look into and find out and figure out, because like, like the game changers list, the list is pretty. It's really, the list does one of two things, and let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's finish talking about the rest of this. 4 is optimized. Optimized, there really is no restrictions. You can play whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, and it's a thing. You know. And then CDH is like, like it's definitely like with the mindset, you know, like with CDH, like you sit there and it's just there's so much more to it. I can't really sit there and super describe stuff about CDH, because most of the people I know that play CDH, it's a whole different monster, and I'm not at that monster yet. I don't, like I said, it's me, like eventually I'll probably get there. Let me get there. Now we're going to the game changers list. So, this list is pretty impressive, and I'm just gonna go ahead and read the thing about the game changers. The game changers dramatically warp commander games, allowing players to run away with resources, shift games in ways many players dislike, block people from play, efficiently search for their strongest cards, or have commanders that tend to take away from more casual games. And unlike previous systems that were discussed, it's only a single additional list to track. So, really cool thing is like you got the ban list, and then you got this game changer list. And like the game changer list right now is at 40 cards. And they're using this beta period to kind of sit there and like get an idea of cards that should be added to the list, should be taken away from the list. And I like that. I like that a lot. I think that there's some cards on this list that I'm surprised on there. Not necessarily to the extent. There are some that I'm not surprised that didn't make that list. So it's like it's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. In addition to that function, you can imagine this as a sort of watch list. So basically, this is the one thing I must say about the game changers list is I love. Okay, so basically everything on this list is probably going to be considered for bans, and give or take depending on situations. So like if you see like once you see this game changers list, just think like, hey, look, these cards could be banned, at any moment in time, depending on popularity, depending on power ability, depending on just stuff. Like there's certain things like that will make these banned. Now, some of these I don't think should be banned, but some of them I kind of see where they're coming from. Um, and there's very few exceptions, which are pretty much something that shows up in a new set and immediately causes problems like Nadu, which makes sense. Nadu was like the one card that I was just like, yeah, when the big ban happened, yeah, Nadu was obvious. Like, oh, he got banned. He got banned in every other format. Why wouldn't he get banned here? Like, so also, and this is the bigger part about this list, is unbanned cards are likely to end up here. So it's like it's very, what I'm saying, like it's the biggest thing about this is like, hey, look, you're not gonna um you're not gonna realize cards are banned out of nowhere in the future, which is one of the biggest things as far as that last commander ban happening was like really like just it was huge. It was like, yo, like with these bans coming out of nowhere, like the F, like that's not cool. So but yeah, no, like this is really, really cool. And I will say this. Um Now, to be clear, most of these cards are unlikely to be banned. You shouldn't go trading away your guy's cradles and concern. However, it's a clear signal for players to know that these cards indicate a different kind of play and that others might prefer not to play against them, which is fair. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, um, the initial list is 40. And let's go ahead and go through them. And they got them separated by color, which is really cool. We're going to go ahead and talk about them. We got Dranith Magistrate, Enlightened Tutor, Sarah Sanctum, Smothering Tide, Trouble in Pairs. For blue, we got Cyclonic Rift, Expropriate, Force of Will, Fierce Guardianship, Rhystic Study, Thassa's Oracle, Urza, Lower High Artificer, Mystical Tutor, and Jinkatax's Core Augur. For black, we got Bolus's Citadel, Demonic Tutor, Imperial Seal, and Opposition Agent, Turgid, God of Fright, Vampiric Tutor, Ad Nauseam. For red, we've got Jessica's Will and Underworld Breach. For green, we got Survival of the Fittest, Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger, Gaia's Cradle. For multicolor, we got Kennen, Bond of Prodigy, Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, Winota, Joiner of Forces, and Grand Arbiter, Augustin IV. And then for colorless, which is the biggest list of all, Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, The One Ring, the Tabernacle of Pendravel, Trinisphere, Grim Monolith, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Diamond, Mana and Glacial Chasm. Oh my goodness. Like this list it's a pretty impressive list. I don't have all of these cards, but I have some of them. So this is that's the exact cards on the Gamechangers list, and it's something that they're definitely looking for feedback in the future. So let's go ahead. They're talking about the brackets, the Gamechangers list. So the roadmap is number one, they're not banning anything yet. The goal is like okay, so let's go ahead. The first step is for you to try it and for us to hear your thoughts. I'm sure we'll start hearing feedback quickly, and we're excited to see a bunch of people trying this in person at MagicCon Chicago. Depending on how that goes, it will inform much of the future. Provided the system generally works and is heading in the right direction, we will make revisions soon after MagicCon for any structural changes we want to include. Then, with the information of how all that went, how that all went in mind, we'll begin discussing any potential unbans. So they're going to be unbanning cards first, with the Gamechangers list as a tool, and we can potentially unban cards and add them to the list to keep them available at the higher brackets while keeping them out the lower ones. The goal here, provided the system works, and will be to come back with one big article in late April. So late April, that both rolls out the full system and any unbans altogether. So, big thing is to look at the ban list and think of cards that might be unbanned, because in April, if there's going to be any unbans at the end of April, we're probably going to see them. So, speculation is key. I've got a couple that I would definitely say, like, I think have high probability to get unbanned and put on this list. And I'll go ahead and name the one that I'm definitely thinking of. It's Primeval Titan. I think Primeval Titan is like deserves to be unbanned and should be on this um, this game changer list, because it is a game changer. But I don't think it's like, I don't think it needs to be banned anymore. I think it needs to be back. I think prime time needs to come back. Period. So that's my speculation. If you know, you know. Let's see. Um, So, and then as we said back in October, no bans will be happening at that time, but just potentially some unbans. So if you're eager to hear about unbans, late April is the date to circle on your calendar. And if anything changes in the timeline, well, I'll let you know. This schedule is, of course, contingent on this system directionally working. Once we're through that, we'll work on a regular cadence for updates when you know you can hear from us. So, hey, that's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. Um, Definitely shout out to the Commander Format panel. I know a lot of them have released some stuff about everything on there and anything. There's a Q&A. I do like this Q&A because like they basically talk about certain things, um, which I do have a big question that I want to ask towards the end. But as far as the Q&A goes, you've got like the let's go ahead and go through it. I don't like this. Do I have to use it? And it's like, no, not at all. It's pretty much for matchmaking. Like, just for like, like magic cons and stuff like this. It's going to help you like figure out what everybody's playing and how everybody's playing. And, like you should want to follow that and help out. Um, so now why each cards are in the list. Um, so Enlightened, Mystical, Demonic, Vampiric, Imperial Seal, Survival of the Fittest. These are the best in class tutors. Intend to find combo pieces or just homogenize the game to play out similarly. While tutors are already mentioned in the bracket structure, these 6 are the ones we wanted to call out specifically. Surprise Worldly Tutor missed that. And Gamble. Like I'm just gonna just throw it out there. I mean, I think Gamble's way more fair, but Worldly Tutor, Big Green, let's get it. we're still all right. We gonna be all right. Okay. So next one's Draenith Magistrate, Opposition Agent, Trinisphere, Glacial Chasm, Tabernacle of Pendrevale. Yeah, no, these cards are pretty much, they are very much hate bears. They efficiently lock out your opponent's abilities to use their cards, often in frustrating ways. Chrome Mox, Grim Monolith, Mox Diamond, Man of All, Ancient Tomb. These are extremely powerful fast mana pieces that accelerate the game. Yeah, okay. Smothering Tide, Trouble in Pairs, Ristic Study, The One Ring, Jessica's Will, Bowls of Citadel. These provide overwhelming resource advantage for the mana value and tend to cause a player to snowball with the game. Like, that's why you need to just pay your taxes. Follow the rules. I mean, the One Ring is an exception to that, but I mean, yeah, don't like pay your taxes, like for Smothering Tide, the Ristic Study, because surprise, Ristic Buddy, good old Esper Sentinel didn't make this list, but yeah, he's kind of way more fair than you think. Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger. This is an extinction of mana denial restriction. That's very, very fair, because like anyone playing a Vorinclex like immediately becomes a problem and becomes like super frustrating and should be dealt with immediately. So that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Lion's Eye Diamond, Underworld Breach, Ad Nauseum. These are combo and storm cards. They're usually up to no good and create power and gold mismatches that are more casual table. Fair enough. Guy's Cradle, Sarah Sanctum provides a huge mana boost. Thassa's Oracle, should stay in CDH tables. Cyclonic Rift, obviously, is just frustrating. Expropriate, my favorite, but I do agree, especially since I am definitely like notoriously trying to copy it exponentially. So we want to expropriate exponentially. So I get it. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. It makes sense. That's fair. Okay. Jig Taxes for Augur. Prime card to cheat out, reanimate, and this gen removes others' resources while ensuring you have endless in quite an unfun way. Exactly. No, because like you play blue black and then you're just like, yeah, I get Jig Taxes in the graveyard. I'll reanimate and lose like what is it? 10 life for him. I forgot exactly how much he cost. He cost a lot. So I'll lose that much life, but yeah, you have no hand anymore. Fair enough. Fierce Guardianship and Force of Will. So they definitely were trying to do something about the free counter spells, and the reason why Guardianship and Force of Will um Guardianship doesn't put you down a card to cast it. Force of Will can counter anything, including commanders, and works on your turn. Negation was left alone since it counts on only counters non-creatures and only works on opponent's turn. So that's fair. That's fair. That makes sense. So Force of Negation still cool, but yeah. Kinnan, Yuriko, Winota, Grand Arbiter, Turgid, and Urza. Um, all of these commanders each have like ridiculous like interactions and just the way they are. Like Turgid God of Fright is one of them like on-site commanders that you just like if somebody's playing that as a commander, yeah, we probably going to be going after you relentlessly and aggressively because you're just gonna just start stealing our things and it's not fair. It makes sense. Oh my goodness, this makes sense. I do like what he said about Grand Arbiter because they're like Grand Arbiter is just no fun to play against. It's like, okay, yeah, all my stuff is taxed. Why is it Soul Rings on the Gamechangers list? Because it's out there in abundance and everyone has one. Everyone gets one. It is a universal truth. It's the way it should be. I do agree with that wholeheartedly. If you don't like playing Soul Ring, you ain't gotta play Soul Ring. But everyone, like Soul Ring was printed to oblivion to where everyone has one and it's in every pre-con commander deck now from now on. And I think that, hey, if you don't play it, I mean, it's up to you. Like you don't have to play it. But yeah. Card X should be on the list. Why isn't it? And they basically are saying, hey, feed them back to us. Like, and honestly, the list I kind of agree with. I kind of actually agree with, and I'm just glad to see like there's a list of cards that they're looking at to be like, hey, look, okay, so this might get banned in Commander. You know, it's always good to know. Like, now, do I think most of these will get banned? No, I think really only one of them might get banned, and I don't think it should get banned. But I also would understand if it got banned. Either way it goes, hey. What does it mean if my commander's on the Gamechangers list, as described above? Um, these commanders, these are commanders that tend to be exclusively frustrating and power outliers at lower brackets. It's just like, yeah, you could play them at lower brackets, but like honestly, like you're pretty much in a lot of these cases, like Kennen and Yuriko and I mean Winota to an extent. Urza definitely. Like, I mean, I get it. You could be playing Urza because of like Brothers War or whatever, but I think most of these cards are really like heinously egregious and frustrating. Yuriko especially. Just gonna be real about that. I think that's fair. But rule zero, once again, rule zero, you know your play groups, you know your people. Like rule zero, rule zero, rule zero. Um Now, the 5 brackets, I do agree with the 5 brackets. I think that the 5 brackets kind of like really like because there's a difference between 1 and 2. There's a huge difference between 1 and 2, and there's a difference between 2 and 3, and then like 4 and 5. Like CDH really is its own monster. Like, you know what I'm saying? And the other thing is like for like ones, like yo, like there's a definite group of people that just really like playing and doing dumb things. I definitely I wouldn't consider any of the decks that I built that would probably be considered ones. I'd consider them more in the 2s or 3s. Definitely 3s, if not 4s. Like in some cases, because like I mean, like real talk, like which I'll mention this in its own separate thing, but like there's decks that I play that I had that I might end up building again under these like rules, like Baron von Count. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that un unstable was a very, very sound Magic set. And honestly, still to this day, it's one of the best drafting experiences I've ever had. If you ever get a chance to draft it, draft it, draft it, draft it, draft it. So, like bear in mind count. Like I actually like my buddies got X built. Um, then there's also like the case of like Mentasha Honored One. You know what I'm saying? I kind of wanted to build Alexander Clamilton. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many like things that I'm like, yo, like, like definitely like I don't think 5 brackets is definitely like the answer, but also I think the 5 brackets is a very like I think it's a good point. I think like it could go down to 3, but I think 5 is more than enough. Five is good. I actually think you can kind of go 6 or 7, with the varying degrees of 4s and 3s and 2s, because like there's varying degrees of those 3 specifically. But I also think that with this bracket system, once you get it like kind of finalized with the new commander decks, maybe in Tarkir, if not Tarkir, definitely Final Fantasy. And if not Final Fantasy, definitely the set after that. Like you should start like putting, because I know you were sitting there saying like, hey, you should start putting like some of these like stuff into like product. Now that y'all control it, why not? Why not? Like you should definitely have like the difference between like at least like whether this is a 2 or 3 on like the commander decks. Be like, hey, like I bought this Final Fantasy deck, and it's like, it's got right there on the thing, bracket 3, like immediately out the box, it's a bracket 3 deck. Like, yo, like that's. I'm just saying, like that's something like you should once you get these brackets finalized, like because I definitely think you could probably go up to like 7 brackets, but that's just me personally. That's me personally. I'm just giving you my feedback on this, you know. Um, but yeah, no, like I think 5 is good, but I think there should be more. Um, my best deck has no changes. It's technically a bracket 2 deck. Um, that's a variable. It's a variable because like the game changers doesn't necessarily mean like you're like you can play a deck with no game changers and it's technically a bracket 2, but you can sit there and make the table feel like so like aggressively oppressed that it's kind of a 4. So it's one of them things. It's once again, power level is a spectrum that really is it's speculative, and I definitely think the same for these brackets. At least these brackets are a little bit more visual and a lot more conclusive than the power levels. Um, why is there 3 cards on the game changers list for bracket 3? Yeah. Basically, once again, which is like the biggest thing I'm coming from this is so that we had a lot of decks talk about we talked about a lot of decks we had and what we expected and what felt right about right so that your deck could have some of these cards show up, but not be not be full of them. We talked about 3, 4, and 5 cards, and while 5 doesn't sound like a lot when the list is only around 40 cards, but when the list was only around 40 cards, that's a lot. Ultimately, we wanted to start lower and see how it feels, but we're very much open to feedback. Once again, why I think like 2s, 3s, and 4s definitely like have like a lot more wiggle room of like, there could be like a 2.5, 3.5 bracket, and even a 4.5 in it to an extent. Well, not really a 4.5 because 4.5 is pretty much CDH. So like definitely at least 2.5, 3.5 in between those two. We naturally expect people to talk about how many game changers are in their deck. So if someone says, hey, I have in game changers in my deck, is that okay? You can decide if that's something you're happy with. How worried should I be about labeling my deck correctly and finding the exact bracket to play with? There's some wiggle room. Like it really is some wiggle room, they're trying to avoid bracket twos against playing against bracket fours, which is fair. And I think that that's definitely something like, to just satisfy experiences at game stores to um like conventions. And the thing is and that's the biggest thing is like, look, playing with your people, usually you and your people is you and your people, and that should be just in general a general thing, you know. But when you go to card shop, when you go elsewhere to play, not everybody is on the same like wavelength, and you gotta kind of like get everyone like, hey, like let's try to like like get everybody on the same page of stuff. And this is what this is trying to do. This is what, what I'm saying, trying to help people like help satisfy experiences while having good matches with people, you know, because not everybody's going to play, you know, fair. Not everybody's going to sit there, and there's pub stoppers out there for a reason, and we don't like them. And it's something that we gotta kind of like sit there and deal with and do something about. And this is to kind of help alleviate that and kind of help, get everybody on the same page. And, same thing with what the power levels was trying to do, except the power levels was way more broader. And the good thing is this is kind of in-house as well. So that way it's kind of helping. And also, like I said, that game changers list, despite the cards on the list, I definitely think that's a good idea, because that's the one thing that like transparency is so key, especially for like banning stuff, because like whenever you have stuff that gets banned, like it definitely changes the value of the card. And if it changes the value of the card, which I'm not sitting there saying, anyone who's sitting there saying you shouldn't be looking at Magic as an investment, I spend a lot of time, effort, and money and resources on playing this. If it has value, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that and keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I would just be just giving out cards just like everybody else would be. You know what I'm saying? And not really stressing about it. There's a reason for that, and I think that should be a thing that should be transparent, especially when it comes to like bands and stuff. It's like, hey, look, like for commander specifically, because this is a casual format. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't be just out the blue banning stuff like without like any type of warning. And that was like the biggest thing that was like really oppressive of this last big bans that changed the whole spectrum of commander specifically. Anyways, how can I use this system practically? And biggest thing is like you can sit there and have your decks already bracketed and be ready and be like, hey, look, like find out what people want to do and be like, hey, you can tell them, hey, look, using the system, and be like, hey, look, I got X amount of game changers in this deck, so this is definitely a 4. You know what I'm saying? It's something to kind of help people figure their things out. You know, um, why is chaining extra turn spells called out specifically? We don't need to see you play solitaire, bro. Now there's something like there's like intentional combos, and they're like, here's the thing, like they said, there's something to be said for intent, which is why we call out no intentional combos and the intent to chain together extra turn spells. I've built decks before with unintentional combos in them, and if you steal a way to copy spells and cast an extra turn spell, you can go for it. There's a big difference between deck building intent and what happens in the game, which is absolutely fair, because like sometimes it's like, hey, look, thanks to certain other people, you end up making the game very, very unfair. And I have been on both the receiving and the dishing out end of that, because like there's sometimes like it's like he said, for example, it's possible a game can end up with mass landing out. One player makes all lands into creatures, and then another sweeps the board. That happens. There are not a lot of cards in Magic. There are a lot of cards in Magic, but if someone builds their deck to do that intentionally, that's a no-no. So, like, say, like, you know, um, somebody plays a Cormus spell, and I play an Urborg and then Wrath of Field. That wasn't intentional because somebody else played Cornerspell. I just decided to take advantage of that and be like, Urborg, Wrath. You see what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't intentional. But, you know, like if you had all three of those in the deck, then it's kind of intentional. I get that. That makes sense. It's understandable. Is this the same power bracket system you announced last year? Yes, but no. It definitely looks similar, but it's something that they were trying to do. Like they definitely mentioned a brackets power bracket, and they definitely wanted to like they I guess they wanted to move away from power. Let's go ahead and get to this. Let's read this real quick. The system can trace the energy back to the system, but as you can see, it's quite a bit different. When we showed it off last September, we were giving you the behind the scenes look at something we were working on in progress. And one of the things about showcasing something before it's done is that it's likely to change. While the direction to be able to bracket decks was useful, as the CFP dug into it, there were all kinds of challenges with that proposed system. For one, that system meant a lot of different lists you have to check against, which made it onerous. It also simultaneously meant that you couldn't add a single high bracket card into your deck without being at the highest level, which is fair. After doing a lot of iteration, we landed on this system, which only has a single list of cards. Bracket 3 lets you play a little bit of the higher bracket stuff without fully going into it, which is how many people build their decks. Finally, we wanted to move away from the word power, which is why these are called commander brackets. Source of Plowshares and Counter Spells are extremely powerful cards, but they're also totally fine for games of Commander. We really wanted to focus us on power level and more on the game experience you want, and the cards that can radically change that game experience. I like that. I like that a lot. Mana basis is our guidance for that. That's fair. Mana basis. That's nothing. Game changers have shown up in pre-constructed decks like Jessica's Will, which was originally a commander card. However, pre-constructed level of core bracket 2 allows for 0 game changers. How would that influence the future pre-constructed deck designs? It's true that bracket 2 is the average modern day pre-constructed level, but the emphasis on average Modern Horizon 3 commander decks and secret layer decks aren't in that mix, for example, and are places these cards can go. Depending on how the adoption of this system goes, this can go several ways, just like how some people will use Rule Zero to include a game changer. I could imagine an incredibly appropriate game changer in a pre-constructed deck potentially being acceptable. I can even imagine a future if this is popular enough where brackets are included on the bracket packaging. Y'all should, and we occasionally release pre-constructed decks at different levels depending on the set. Imagine a highly thematic and flavorful set of 4 bracket 1 decks or a set of juiced up bracket 3 decks. Interesting. That's all speculation at this point, and it's far too early to be working on that kind of thing. But in any case, when it comes to reprints, there will be plenty of places to put these cards. The system doesn't preclude us from making sure there are ways to get these cards out there in the future, including potential pre-constructed decks. Will you be designing cards to go straight into the Game Changers list? No, at Wizards, we don't see this as a tool to create even more powerful cards for Commander or anything of the sort. It's something to help matchmaking, not one to give us an excuse to push the envelope. Is there online tools I use easily to tell me what my bracket deck is? Actually, they spoke about this. They've already taught the Architect, which is who I use. There's Moxfield, which is who a lot of people use, and Scryfall, which a lot of people use as well. They are already giving them all a heads up on the system. They've also given a heads up to EDH Rec. So all this is definitely like all of most of your normal places that you already use are already privy to this. In fact, a lot of people beat me to doing a video, so hey, go for them. Daybreak Games is also working on the Magic Online team to work on an implementation for it as well. And then they say, go check out the Discord. Go check out their Discord. Yep. So, like, all in all, like, I definitely think this is, like, these are positive. I'm not trying to be negative here. You know me, I am a positive Pete. I definitely think this is a very, very, very good idea. I think this is going to be some good things to roll out and good things to do and good things to have for us. I definitely think this Game Changers list is a very good list of cards that, some are seen almost all the time and some aren't. And do I think any of these cards will be banned? I really only think one will possibly move up to the ban, but I don't think it should. I honestly don't think it should. I really don't think it should, but it might, But I think everything else on here is pretty much it's fair. It's fair game and it's acceptable. And like I do think that there is very much potential for a card to be put up in this Game Changers list, as well as cards to come back and be unbanned finally. Prime time. I can't wait to see you back at the end of April. I'm already going to call it now. That is who I think is going to come back. That is one of the cards. I think a lot of cards are actually going to be pulled off that list. I do think there's an argument for original braids, even though she's I think that she might see a comeback as well. I do think that some people, Prophet of Krufix, they could go ahead and stay in the ban list. Even though I love Prophet of Krufix, I just, if you know, you know. Either way it goes, what are your thoughts on this? Like, I know y'all got a lot to talk about. Talk to your boy. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz. Don't forget, as always, it is all about the gathering. We're going to try our best. We should build something. I need to build something for this whole Game Changers list and all that stuff, and we're going to try to build us a good, decent 3 deck, and we're going to figure out something of Commander to build for it and do something and make it a 3 and see where we're at and see how everyone feels and see what people think. So we're going to look into my cards and try to build something and do something great. Hopefully we'll have that done before Friday, which is getting not a lot of time. I got 48 hours to do it and film it and do all that stuff. So, hey, we're going to work on that and build something new because I've been wanting to build something new. I just don't know what to build. And I'm not going to be building anything Aether Drift for a while because, your boy is struggling at the moment. But either way it goes, hey, don't forget, it's all about the gathering. Have yourselves a great day. Be good to people. Be good to yourselves and each other. Man, it's a great day. As always, holla at ya boy. Peace.